Hello sewing and non-sewing friends, welcome back to another video by me, Shanice. And as you can tell, I have a little different kind of setup going on here. I'm trying to figure out kind of like how I want to move forward with videos. Sewing videos, commentary videos, all those things. But in this video, I wanted to talk about rulers. Collected a significant amount of rulers, and some of them I use all the time, some of them I don't. So in this video, I want to focus on which ruler you need, ruler 1 or 2, which ones you'll need during the beginning of your sewing journey, so you don't have to collect a plethora of rulers like I have. The 2 rulers that I'm not going to show here, because we all know what they are, is just a regular ruler and a yardstick. So I think a regular ruler and a yardstick are 2 rulers that you will probably want to have in your stash. Okay, so now we're going to talk about these specialty rulers. I will talk about the ones that I don't use a lot, and I have them here. So these 2 are called flexi rulers. I bought this one first, and then I bought this one second. I bought this one in the store, and I bought this one at a sewing conference. And what they're good for, they are good for measuring curves. So on both of them, you have inches on one side and centimeters on the other. Now how I have used these mainly, and it kind of like I messed it up a little bit, but I used it to measure or find the shape of my crotch. Yes, so I'll go ahead and put that down. I want to talk about this one. So they are really good for measuring the curvature of something. So for example, say you wanted to follow the lines of some fabric and it was wavy and you had to put some piping on. So this right here would definitely be a good ruler, because what you can do is you can bend it and flex it about, say for example, you wanted to go around a pillow, or say for example, you just wanted to trace something out and you wanted to get the shape of it. You have this flexi ruler. But again, how I have used it is to figure out what the shape of your crotch, because when you look at pants, there's a special shape there. But you know what? I'm not going to go into all the details of fitting pants, because that's not what this video is about. So should you get one of these flexi rulers? Only if you want to. Not required. It's not a need to have, but it's definitely a nice to have. The next ruler that you probably don't need if you are sewing garments is a quilting ruler. So this is an Omni Grip. I bought this just so I can cut out squares, because I do not do a lot of quilting. You probably won't see quilting videos on my channel, but I do some quilting for personal projects. And so this is definitely good to have. It has a line here for 45 degrees. It goes from, what is this? This is 5.5, 6.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, 6.5. So what I really like about this ruler is that it's not just squares all the way across. At the far end here and down here, it's actually a 1/2 inch. So it's definitely good for marking squares for quilting. My next ruler, which is a nice to have, is this little teeny Omni Grid. Now I'm going to have to tell you, I do like this brand. I don't know why. I think it's because it's the acrylic. It's nice. It's tough. The markings are in your face, and I haven't had one yet where the numbers have faded off, because I do have some acrylic rulers where the numbers fade off, and so I just use them as a straight edge. But this is also a little Omni Grid, and one thing I like about this is that it has the 3/8 and 3/16 markings on here. So let me see if I can get a close up. No, it did not. I tried. It didn't work because I have autofocus off. And then while I'm talking about Omni Grid, let me pull up my last Omni Grid ruler that I have. So I also have this baby. This was actually my first Omni Grid. And what I like about this ruler is that I needed something, because on my other one, which I will show, the markings kind of faded off. Did it? Yeah, it kind of faded off. They faded away. And I like this one. So this is 18 inches. And I really like using this whenever I draft slopers. If you don't know it or not, I am the drafting bodice sloper queen. Workshops coming soon. But I like to use this one for all of my sloper work. It has a lot of lines here for your different 45-degree angles. No matter which way you need to turn it or use it, there are 45-degree lines on it. I love this one. Is it a need to have? No, but it's a nice to have. So let's go on to the next ruler. This was my first ruler that I bought when I first started sewing. And as you can see, it is very similar to the Omni Grid. It's a little bit bigger, but if you can't tell, let me see here. The markings have all gone away compared to my Omni Grid, but here it's gone. So I still use this as a straight edge. Again, this was my first ruler, my very first ruler, and I will keep her forever. But just know it's for scars. Maybe, I don't know if I should say that, but the numbers went away on me, so it's only good for straight edging. Another straight ruler I have is this flexi ruler. Acrylic. If you snap this, you might hurt yourself. You might have an eye injury real quick. I love this. This is almost, I want to say, this is a must-have. Why is it a must-have? Because not only is it flexy, along it you have your smallest, you have your 1/8 and 1/16 marks along the edge. And when you are altering your patterns and need to make changes, knowing where 3/8 is, 3/16, 5/16, that is important. And along here, or along the edge of this ruler, on the top and the bottom, oh, and even on the sides, you have those special markings. Flexi ruler, I think you need this. You want this. Not you need this. You want this in your life. And these are rulers that I pick up. If I go to a garage sale, a yard sale, anything, and I see a ruler, I'm going to buy it. And this was one of them. Sewers T-square, see as you mark. Transparency takes the guesswork out of marking. Down at the bottom, they have some yard markages. So there's markings at the top, and then you have centimeters down here in these marks. So on the edges, so this one says 1/4 of an inch. So if you took your pencil, let me see, you can see my face. If you took your pencil and you drew this line here, and then you drew the line here, you're going to have a line that's 1/4 inch apart. If you drew along these two lines right here, you are going to have two lines that are 1/2 inch apart. Use this every now and again, but this is definitely one that I kind of like picked up along the way. And again, this is if you just need to draw straight lines. Definitely good for quilting. Not too much I would do with this when it comes to garment sewing, unless I guess, no, I wouldn't do that. This is a pattern mate alterations ruler. And one thing that I liked about this is that it's a hip line French curve. Let me go this way. Measure down your hip. You can also use this to put in when you're doing crotch work. Not a need to have, but it's definitely a nice to have. I bought it. Speaking of hip curve, that's what this ruler is. You can see it. Here it goes. This is a 24-inch hip curve ruler. I would, when you're working with your pants or your skirt or your dress, you never want to just draw your hip just like this. Your hip curve is going to be somewhere along this line. And I definitely use this area right here the most, because when you're drafting a sloper, you don't have very curvy lines. You just have something subtle. Yeah, you might want to buy this. If you're going to be making skirts and pants, I say go ahead and invest in a hip curve. Do it. It'll say you'll be happy in the end. This is a seam gauge. It's a seam gauge. It's not a seam gauge ruler, but you use it as a ruler. My numbers have faded out some. I don't know if you'll be able to tell. Nope. It's not going to work. Hold on. Whoop. So it's just helping you marking seams between, there's 1/4, there's 3/4, 5/8, 1/2 inch. But I bought this when I first started sewing because I wasn't confident in my measuring in the units. The first thing that I use, and I still use it to this day, because I didn't have one of these, this is a seam gauge. It's also a ruler. And so whenever you need to mark your seam allowance, 5/8. So if you're not sure when you're looking at this, you're not sure where like a quarter is, you're not sure where 5/8 or 3/16 is, then using something like this is definitely handy. So for example, on here, let's see, here's a quarter. This is a quarter right here. Let me go over here. Here's a quarter. So if you don't want to keep this little thing around, you can just go like this and find where your quarter mark is. And there you go. Now you know where a quarter is on your seam gauge and you can get the sewing. Another ruler, so there's tape measures. Everybody knows what a tape measure is. A tape measure is a must-have when sewing. It is a must-have when sewing. But what is not a must-have is this contraption here. This is for pants making. This is called the Too Easy tape, and it's measuring made easy. I bought this at a sewing conference, and what this does is there is this, looks like a T, but this ruler going across the top, it has a 0 in the middle, and I have it taped here because I wanted to keep this second tape on the 0. But this is a nice ruler to have that has 0 on in the middle, and you can do so many great things when you're taking your measurements. But where this little hinge comes from is that you can take this ruler, you can measure your crotch depth from front to back, and then from your middle you can actually measure your inseam. So this will sit in the middle of your crotch area, and then this will go down your leg and you can get your inseam mark. I thought this was amazing, and it also came with the book, but I won't show it because I'm on video and I don't know if I should be doing that. Nice to have, it's not a must-have, but if you really want to get busy with your drafting of pants, I say get one of these. Another ruler that I have, and I don't have an acrylic one and I wish I did, but this is a paper ruler. This is for a waistline dart, so it's more of a template, but there's definitely numbers on it, so you can't, I don't think you can see them. Let me get it here. You can't see them. Oh, I'm going to have to learn how to work this light, seriously. Here is a line right here that indicates this is your waistline, and so then you can draw the bottom, the bottom of your dart, and you can draw the top of the dart. At the top here, there is an arrow, if you can see it. If I back it up here, there is an arrow here, and this is where you line up with your apex. You line this up with your apex, and the apex is going to, this pattern, this dart here is giving you 1 inch, so you can actually put this arrow on your apex if you want it 1 inch. I usually do 1.5 inch, and then you can go ahead and draw your dart in. There's a perforated space in here. I'll go ahead and I'll take one off. There's 5 slits here, and there are some slits right along this edge. If you pop these out, you can actually use these for a straight edge to mark your 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Another ruler I have, this is called, this is from the American Fashion Institute, and again, this is something that I did not buy, but I am bringing this up to let you know, like when you are out and about, when you're at a garage sale, yard sale, whatever it is, and you see these rulers, even though you might not understand what they are at the time, I think they're good to have. And that's exactly what I did with this one. It looks like a little teardrop, little raindrop. Ooh. This is the crotch template, and so there are 2 markings here, but this says front and this is the back. You line up this marking on the very bottom of your crotch curve, and this is kind of the shape it'll give you, and there are lines to mark your 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. There are lines, and then there is a marking on the back where you can lie and you can begin tracing the shape of your back crotch line, the back pants, the back crotch line, the crotch The back crotch line, yes. So that is what this is for. Again, this doesn't give me the exact curve, but it gives me an idea. So if I have done a lot of changes, if I've added some, if I've taken out some, and I just want to get that line, get that smooth line in place, this is something that I use. My number one ruler, and this is the ruler that I use whenever I am teaching someone to sew, is a fashion ruler. This right here is, I think, the most important ruler, acrylic ruler, that someone who is starting should get, because you have your regular ruler along the flat edge, and you have some markings here that go from, let me turn this way, there is an inch, an eighth of an inch, a fourth of an inch, 7/8 of an inch. There are those marking numbers at the bottom. There's no centimeters on here, but it also has some yard conversions. So how many inches are in a yard, and a half yard, 3/4 yard, or a whole yard? It's right here for easy reference. But it also has this curve, which you can also use as a hip curve. You can also use as a arm's eye, your armhole. So I have a sheet that goes here. Let me make sure that I got everything covered. Let me tell you the different ways you can use this. You can take this and you can use the top when you need to redraw the cap on your sleeve. You can turn it this way and use one side. Then you can flip it over to the other side and do the other side of your sleeve cap. The straight edge can be used for everything. If you need to redraw your side seam, if you need to redraw your hem. So usually on the bottom of the bodice, there is a slight curve to it. The bodice is never a straight line. So this is where this nice curve comes in to redraw the line of the bottom of your bodice, or even to turn it this way and to redraw the top of your waistband or the top of your pants or your skirt, whatever it may be. This is also good if you have to draw your darts. So usually the darts on the pattern, it'll be straight. Draw your darts in. But if you have some roundness in your belly area, you might want to draw a dart that has a slight curve to it so that it hugs your body. And last but not least, using it to shape your side in a one-piece dress. So yes, to draw the side of your bodice, but if you're making a dress that's one piece, you can also use it to shape that. Those are the rulers that I have in my stash, minus the some of the ones that I use for pressing, and the regular ruler, and the what was it called? Yardstick. Oh, and I have one more. Let me go and get her. How can I forget my big girl? This is an L square ruler. This is very useful whenever you have a piece of paper and it doesn't have any lines on it, and you want to make sure that you have a nice square edge to start when you're drafting patterns. So one thing you don't want to do is you have a piece of paper and you think you have a straight line and everything gets off. Starting off with the nice square corner will make sure that your lines from the bottom all the way to the top and every other line is definitely square and horizontal, so that you're not making clothes that are crooked. So sewing and not sewing friends, that is my short little video on rulers. I hope you find the ruler that works for you. But again, for starting off, one thing that you really might want to put in your stash above all rulers is a design ruler. It will save your life, trust me. Thanks for watching.